Chips. What's up everyone, here's back the ProShip Studios. We're back with another tutorial for the Halloween series, and today we'll be starting work on the props for our scene, so let's get on with it. So here we are back in Blender. We have the witch, and for starters I want to make some slight adjustments to this one. I think you should already get used to it. I do that like almost every time. I'm a fickle person, I know. Alright, so let's just see, move those two inside a bit more. Okay, that's better shape, so let's save that again. And I want to block the witch, and I have to make it invisible, and then I want to move the reference a bit to the side because we need to add a new reference photo for our props. So let's add an image, and I'll use this one. This is the first picture that, of course, I found on Pinterest. It's a really nice photo with low polygon props for your scene. And we'll be working today on just a couple of them. And we'll be continuing on the other tutorials with the list of props that I've listed a bit before. Okay, I made another collection for those, and let's start with a cone. So we'll be actually working on the trees first. Let's get the cone back to about 7. Let's go for 8 faces. Okay, and let's drag that around here. And let's go to wireframe mode. Select the vertices for the bottom. Let me just go back a bit to the solid, and I want to select this face first and I want to inset it. You'll see why I'm doing that into a second. So we get that up and wireframe, and when you want to extrude, I always do this. I extrude from a bit higher so that you can't see under it. We don't want our tree to look blocky. So this is the first, and we have to inset it again and then get it higher and then extrude. All right, and then we resize it again and inset again. Go a bit higher. And I want to make this one a bit smaller. So this would be the tree base. Okay. So that's our tree, roughly, our tree for now. I want to rotate this one a bit. So let's see how we can give it more detail. So let's go to solid mode. And this tree actually looks pretty good. Oh, wait a minute. This tree looks pretty good, but I want to select those edges and I want to close them a bit and then get them higher. But I think each one has to go higher to a certain degree. So I take this one a bit further and maybe make it a bit different. We don't have to make all the parts of the tree equal because it would look like unnatural. Let's get this down a bit also. And I want to rotate this part a bit and this one. Okay, well, there we have our first tree. So right now, if you want to, let's rename it to Pine. And we can, of course, duplicate it and make the second one by scaling it differently and changing some details then. So I scale that a bit and I want to, let's see, maybe I'll change the rotation for these sides of the tree. I want to change the top part also. And maybe I'll give it something like a rotation. Let me just take those different parts. Okay, this one, let's scale it. This one also, let's rotate it. And this side of the tree, we can actually rotate it the other way. Let's go to wireframe mode. And I want to select this part of the tree. And I want basically to make the tree trunk a bit smaller. All right. Now let's go back to solid mode. Okay, let's move the trees a bit to the front. And I want to select this one. I still want to change it up. It looks a bit weird right here. And I want to rotate it a bit more. Okay. Now let's select this part and I want to make it look like the wind has damaged the tree and the top is like a bit to the side, or maybe it's like a mutation of the tree. So let's see, the radius should be smaller for this one, something around here. Because if you make all the trees stand up normally, like that's not how a forest works. A lot of the trees are going around with their branches, or maybe some of them have been cut or torn by storms. Like this one should be a bit different. Let's actually deactivate that. Okay. And I want this tree to be pretty small and thinner than the others. So this one would be like a baby pine. Let's rotate it overall. And right now it looks different from the others. All right, let's apply the scale for those, and let's also apply the rotation. And I want to take those a bit to the side and start working on the other type of trees. So let's choose an icosphere because this fits much better their topology. So I want to start with a small one just because I like him. He's really cute. So let's pick this top vertex and I want to activate again the proportional editing. Let's drag that around here, be a bit pointy and maybe a bit to the side, slightly. All right. And then you want to select the bottom one and make it a bit more flat. And then I have to go to the bottom and I want to select, let me just drag that in front, and I want to select the faces that go to the bottom and I want to insert them in and then extrude that for the trunk of the tree. So we do that and then let's deactivate the proportional and extrude that after we drag it a bit to, let's say, this amount and then extrude again. And I want to select this, rotate it a bit. Okay, so here we have our baby tree. This is a new kind of tree, a hybrid that we created. So let's take it to the side and I want to create the other taller one also that looks more like a candy. So we can create it actually from the small one. Let me just get this into position. And let's go to wireframe and we want to, whoops, we want to select again the top one and let's reactivate proportional and then we drag it. We want to drag pretty much all the elements to make them reach the shape of this tree. So around here, let's say. And then we want to take that again, make the radius smaller and drag this back down. All right. Let's make some adjustments. Maybe just a little bit of tweaking. And for this part, we can actually pretty much keep it the same. Just drag on the vertices a bit more. Okay. And I want to center this edge and take those and get them to the bottom. Make it a bit wider and this one a bit smaller. I want to add another edge right here so that we can give it a different shape for the trunk. And here we have it. Let's apply the rotation and the scale. And that's another tree going for us. So what should we do next? Let us see. Let's actually go for small thing. Let me just readjust those here. I want them to be on the same grid so that when we have to work with them later, I want them to be lined up. All right. That's pretty good looking. Let me just deactivate the proportional editing. It's up to no good again. All right. And I want to set their point of origin. I want to set it at the bottom for all of the trees, since we'll be working with that point a bit later. So around here, we just deactivate that again. And the same with the last one. You select all the vertices and pull them so that the point is at the bottom of the model. All right, that looks good. So let's get back to the reference photo and let me just rename those. So this would be 3 and this is 3. Well, this is mini 3 actually. And I'll make some different folders for all of those assets. We'll need that later. So this one would be for trees and I want to create another collection. This one would be rocks. And let's get started with rocks. So I want another icosphere. And let's take it to the bottom and let's see what rocks we can create. I don't think I'd go for what we have into the reference. I don't need to. We can just create rocks pretty easily by ourselves. So let's flatten this part and then we take the top one also and try to flatten it all together. So let's go for something around this size. And I want to make it longer and a bit pointy. And let's say maybe we can give it some more detail. But first let me get it to the front. And let's try to press on this part. Okay. And on this side also, let's drag that up. That our rock can have a little bit of details. I don't want it to be polished. Okay. And a bit in. I'm just experimenting with stuff. Here you can really do like your own rocks. It's not really that hard to make a rock. Well, at least a low poly one. So let me see. All right. There we have a rock. A pretty big one, to be fair. So let's select all of them and deactivate proportional editing and set the origin to the bottom. Let's scale that down a bit. You don't really have to bother, but I like to do it anyway. And apply rotation and scale. And let's create, well, another rock. I'll actually help you out and I'll use my magical powers to skip this part since we have to create a couple of rocks and it's really not that interesting. You can create your own. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, in a couple of seconds. Okay, so that is the collection of rocks that I've created. I want to save first and we want to make grass, but first let me just lock the reference and I want to create for this one, I'll create a cube. We could also go for cylinder So let's see, maybe that will work better. Yeah, let's go for a cylinder with really few vertices, like maybe 6, like we did for the stuff. So let's make it really smaller and let's take it here to the reference. I'll do something that resembles the reference, but not actually the same number of strands. Let's go to wireframe and I want to select this part. Oh, again, the proportional editing. So let's take this to the side and then make another one with the other rotation. And like this is just grass. It's really like strands of geometry. It's not really a big deal, but if you want to get into more detail with that, sure, that's fine. Maybe you want some really close-ups of your grass in the final render, but I don't really. I just populate it. But yeah, I could see like the use in that. So this is the first strand. Let me just put it here and duplicate it. And let's create another type of strand by moving the vertices in front mode. It's really easy to do that here. And if you want later, you can change it, the rotation for the whole strand. Okay, and I want this one to look a bit thinner than the first one. And maybe make it smaller also. I think I'll actually be doing just a couple of groupings for grass, and then you'll see that we'll duplicate them in big numbers later, much easier than doing them manually. So don't have to bother with that much also. So just make 1, 2, or maybe 3 groupings of different strands of grass, and then we'll get that going a bit later. So let me just use my powers again. All right, so the magic happened, and right now I'm actually at the end of the process. Like I'm just rotating around the strands that I've created to make 2 different groupings, and then I'll have to parent those just one strand. So there will be one main strand that controls the other. So let's just take all of those and parent them as an object, and this one would be grass 2. All right, and let's select grass 1 and grass 2, and we want to move them after applying the rotation and scale. We want to move them close to the rocks and set them on the line. There we go. Let's make it precise. Okay, that should be good. So right now, what I want to do is I want to actually create some bushes. Like we don't have them put in the reference, but we can easily create bushes like just like we created the rocks. Since we are into low polygon, we can create bushes really easily. So let's take another icosphere like that, and I want to modify it to look more like, well, it's actually like a ball that's been stomped a bit. So you could say it's an oval shape, or you can do like more ovals. This one would be like a simple bush, and we'll be doing some other different kinds of bushes that are made from like multiple groupings. So let's get this one settled. So this would be a president of America. I know, it's a bad joke. Okay, so this is push. And if we want to create another one that's more complex, let's just go for multiple icospheres that we squash a bit and then we group together. So let's get this one here and this one here. And I think I'll duplicate one here also. And this one should be the main. So let's see how that works. Let's experiment a bit here. That looks a bit weird. So I don't think I'll be using all of those. Let me just drag them to the front. And this one not aligned, like those are not aligned properly. Almost neither of them, besides the first couple of trees. Okay, so let's take the rocks also. And I want to take them like on the red line that you see there. That's like an axis. That's the x-axis right now. And I want to take them be kind of in the middle of the x-axis. They don't have to be like ordinated just like that, but I really like them. Okay, and drag this a bit to the right. And we can drag this one here and the grass strands around here. And we'll make some place for the other bush too. So let's get back to work on this one. And I think I'll delete this one and I'll keep just about 3 segments. So let's see how can we morph this into bush looking. Okay, something like that. That looks like a bush. And if we go to edit, we actually have the bool tool. If you don't have it selected, you can go to edit preferences and then search for the bool tool. And I press the union. You can put it up as a brush, so it's like a modifier, or you can actually put it as a permanent thing. So I did just that. And I really don't want to mess around with the geometry too much on this one, since we won't be manipulating it. We'll just be replicating it, and that's fine with us. If you want to go extra and save some resources, you can decimate each object that you have and you think that it has too much geometry. But I won't be doing that. Since this is all low polygon, it will render pretty fast. So that's the second bush. Let's just move them bush, and then grass strands. All right, let's apply the rotation and scale. And those are the props for the ground that we created. I'm just resizing stuff a bit. So like we have smaller stones and bigger ones. Well, like I told you, it doesn't really matter right now, but I want to have a different base because then we can play around with the settings a bit later with the scale and rotation of objects from just one point. So let's take all of them on the same line. So they pretty much have the origin point starting from the same place. It will really help us later. All right. Now what I want to do is to select all of the objects, apply rotation and scale again, because maybe we modified some of them. And then I want to add to all of those. Let me just take them to the left. I want to add another thing that we don't have right now, which is clouds. So we want to add an icosphere. Let me just drag the icosphere here. Let's create another collection, and this one would be, well, clouds. Okay, let's deselect those. And now we can work here and we create an icosphere, and this one would be the start of our first cloud. So let's take this vertex and take that upwards and flatten that a bit. Clouds really have different shapes in reality, but since this is a cartoonish type of work, we can actually get away with low polygon stuff that looks well like in the cartoons when you have like those really fluffy and round clouds that you see. So this is something like that. And let's drag it to around here. This is a really simple cloud. Let's select all the vertices and deactivate this one and get the origin point. Well, actually for this one, it's not really that important, but since we did all the origin points at the bottom, we can just keep it like that. So let's create another icosphere because we also want clouds that are more complex. So let's scale that here and let's compound it again with slight variations. For the clouds, we won't be using anything really complex. We'll be keeping them as they are right now. And we'll be moving them each separately. You'll see how a bit later. So, okay. This is like another cloud. Let's change the size a bit. And let's compare it. Let's duplicate and make another one that would be even more complex. This one would be like triple cloudy something. Okay. And as we did for the bushes earlier, let's go for the bool tool, press union. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, so those are part of the same object. Let me just go and select just those two and press union. Since we had selected another small cloud, it didn't work earlier. So let's take here the origin point to around the middle and the bottom of this cloud. And then let's put them on the line, and we want to select the other complex clouds also and press union. Select all the vertices, get the point, and take it down. Let's rename those to cloud 1 and cloud 2. I know, I'm so original with names. All right, those are the clouds also. So actually, those are all the props that I've planned for today. Let me just make that invisible for a second and let's make those selectable again. Extract them, apply rotation and scale for all of those. Okay, and I also want to make final check from merge and by distance. As you can see, we didn't have any kind of extra vertices, and right now we did all of those assets, and we'll be going into the other tutorials to continue with the assets. We still got a couple of them to make. All right, so let's just say job well done for today, and let's head to the other tutorial for the second part of the props, and I'll see you there. Bye.